how hot yoga changed, but more importantly, transformed my entire life. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, smash the like button if you're enjoying this video. It really helps out the channel a ton. So, yes, I've been practicing yoga for 42 years. I've been teaching for 41 years. I want to talk about how yoga transformed my life, give you a little bit of history how I started, and what I was taught by my teacher Bikram via his teacher Vishnu Ghosh, and took those principles to practice and practiced those teachings, which had such an important impact in my life, and then impacted all of the teachers that I've trained, over 2,000 across the world. So my original dream was to be a singer and an actor. So I went to NYU, School of the Arts, Tisch School of the Arts, back in the mid-1970s to take up the dramatic arts. And interestingly enough, yoga was part of the curriculum. We were doing yoga in the lobby of the theater, which now hosts the show Wicked, interestingly enough, because they didn't have a yoga room back then, so we did it in the lobby of the theater. And it wasn't hot yoga, and many of the postures I struggled with because they want us to sit in a lotus position, and me along with the other guys, our hips were too tight, we couldn't get into lotus position, so obviously it did not resonate with me. But then I moved to Los Angeles, hoping my career would take off there, from New York to Los Angeles, and that's when I met Bikram in 1980. And the experience was completely different because Bikram created this 26 posture, 2 breathing exercises that were accessible to pretty much everyone. He had the Western anatomy in mind, especially men. You'll see a lot more men in a Bikram class than you will in other types of yoga, interestingly enough. And one of the reasons why is because Bikram has chose postures that were more accessible to Western anatomy and to the male anatomy. So I did my first class with Bikram. Back then, Bikram taught every single class. He had 4 classes a day. Actually, there was 5 classes, and Amy Cleaves was also a teacher of mine, taught the advanced class. And Amy was in my first class. I was sitting right in front of Bikram in the second row, and Amy was to my left. And I had very flexible hamstrings even back then. And so one of the things that Bikram used to do was make people feel amazing, especially if you listened to Bikram. And I did. I listened to everything Bikram said. So I was therefore Bikram's best friend. So he saw this flexibility that I had. And the first thing he said was, I must have been a woman in my last 5 lifetimes. And Emmy was right there, and the two of them were so encouraging. I think that's what sparked me to want to continue to come back. I just love the attention. So now if you're enjoying this video, don't forget, hit the like button. And then after a very short period of time, I would walk out of that yoga room and I would drive home, and I had this extraordinary feeling of euphoria. You'll hear people talk about runner's high. You get this endorphin rush when you're exercising and exerting your body. But I believe yoga it takes it to another level. In the yogic practice, it's really what I call a holistic high, because it comes deep into the body. It's not just an endorphin rush, but it's the awakening of the pranic energy, the subtle energy inside the body that becomes more of a spiritual high. So I had this extraordinary high that I would then experience every single day. As we start to move the body, as we start to create this freedom of movement and range of motion, it releases the blockages and toxins in the body. And they talk about it in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where when you change your physiology, you change your state. It's the science that Tony Robbins was in when he first started in the motivation business. When you change your physiology, you change your state. In yoga now, you're changing your physiology every single day, especially opening the spine. So we had this extraordinary movement, range of motion, releasing of the toxins and the poisons. And now you add the heat factor. Now back then, we didn't have the room as hot as Bikram heats it now. Now Bikram heats the room, and I promised to do a video on this. He heats the room to 105 degrees, 40% humidity. Back then it was it wasn't as humid. It was maybe 102 degrees with 20% humidity, because the humidity sets the heat index. So in Florida, when the humidity gets to 60, 70%, you don't want the temperature that high. So in my studio in Fort Lauderdale, we never would bring the temperature past 100 because we had so much humidity. So the humidity sets the heat index. But anyway, beside the point, this surrounding heat, Bikram had this great metaphor. You take a piece of steel to a blacksmith, and you tell the blacksmith you want a knife or a sword. The first thing he's going to do is put the cold steel in the fire to heat it up. And as he heats up the steel, he can bang it, shift it, mold it into any position he wants. So here's what's happening with the body. We're creating this therapeutic penetrating heat, and now we're able to stretch even further. So now we add the range of motion, the release of the toxins with the therapeutic heating element, and it becomes this extraordinary experience. You walk out of the class, and for the rest of the day, and I've been doing it for 42 years, it gets better. It just doesn't happen in the beginning. For the rest of the day, for the rest of your life, you have this extraordinary therapeutic, holistic healing. Just think about that every single day. Now, I'm not saying if you do other styles of yoga that are not heated, you're not going to have the same experience. Just the heat factor is not going to be there. There's 30, 40 million people practicing yoga on a daily basis in the United States alone. I think the hot yoga people are maybe 1 or 2 million of those. So there's extraordinary benefits in any type of yoga that you do. In fact, I'm going to make a video on the different styles of yoga maybe next week. Back to my first class. After my first class, I came out of the room and I said to Bikram, okay, I'm working 5 days a week. Because remember, I was trying to be a singer in Los Angeles. And when you're a singer, you're either a bartender or a waiter. So I was a bartender at the LA airport, American Airlines Terminal 4. And I said to him, I'm working 5 days a week, so I'll do yoga on my 2 days off. And he said, no, you need to do yoga at least 3 times a week. So I said, okay, I'll just cowboy up and do one on when I'm working. But very soon I got so addicted that not only was I doing yoga every single day, or back then 6 days a week, he wasn't even open on Sunday, I started doing 3, 4 classes a day. And many of you know this if you watched my videos before. That was my teacher train program, 3, 4 classes a day. But I disagree with Bikram. I don't think you should be doing yoga a minimum 3 days. I believe it should be a minimum 4 days. 5 is great, 6 is ideal. I'm a proponent of taking 1 day off. I talk about it in this video. Go back and watch this video after you see this one. But you want to build momentum. So if you're doing yoga every other day, you're always in catch-up. For example, when I was doing yoga 5, 6 days a week, mostly 6 days a week, and it takes Sunday off. Monday was my stiffest day. Monday was the most challenging day. If I'm doing yoga every other day, every day is going to be Monday for me. When I was doing it 5, 6 days a week, the 5th and 6th day of the week was my best day. I was so open because I built the momentum. So if you're doing 4, 5, 6 days a week, do them in a row. Don't go every other day. Do them in a row and you're going to see such a better residual effect. And then Bikram used to say that his teacher, Bikram-Ghosh, his equation, and I don't know where he came up with it, I'm sure it wasn't scientific, maybe he intuited with his own spiritual connection to Yogananda, but he would say that if whatever class you're doing today, you will receive the residual benefit, the main benefit from this class, 5 years into the future. So now if you're doing your practice for at least 5 years, not only are you now receiving the residual benefit you did 5 years ago, but you're also receiving that present moment benefit that you're receiving in this moment's class. So you can have that holistic high I talked about, but now you're going to have the residual effect from 5 years ago. So now many of you know that Bikram and I split in 2002. And then I started my own teacher training programs in 2003 and my own style of hot yoga called the Barkan method. And I've been holding teacher training programs ever since. So my shift in my career, the last half of my career, went from helping students, which I still do on a daily basis, to helping teachers, inspiring teachers who have gone all across the world, inspiring their students, and knowing how I contributed to that effect, that worldwide effect, is really a feeling that is indescribable. Seeing, knowing, and believing the extraordinary effect that this yoga had on my life, I wanted to share with others, and then that became this whole exponential growth across the world. So I'm very, very proud of that. So therefore, it's not just physical, but also mental, also emotional, having that knowledge to help people. So like I said before, the physical aspect, the physical healing of yoga, opening up the toxins, getting rid of the blockages in the body, and then the mental, emotional, changing your physiological state, changes your psychological state. The nervous system and the immune system are eavesdropping on each other. You've got this foundation you can set for the rest of your life, physical, mental, and spiritual healing that you can put in place on a daily basis. And then the spiritual aspect of yoga, as many of you know, my teacher is Bikram Chaudhary. And his teacher was Vishnu-Ghosh. Vishnu-Ghosh's older brother and guru was Paramahansa Yogananda. We are rooted in history and a spirituality that dates back to the 1700s and beyond. So we have this physical, mental, and spiritual connection to help people across the world. So the transformation in my life, I've been able to share with others. And to me, that is a legacy that I will leave behind and be very proud of. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell. Then you get notified when I post a new video. You don't have to look for it. And hit the like button if you enjoy this video. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.